Nyck Harbor is a freakish athlete with elite size, athleticism, and ball skills at the wide receiver position, but he's so unrefined, and that will limit where he lands in the NFL draft.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I'm Damian Parson. That's Keith Sanchez. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. And today's episode is all about South Carolina's big, tall, explosive wide receiver, Nyck Harbor. We're going to explain our grade, thought any size and play style comps that we have for him, talk about the concerns in the big wide receivers game. But as always, we talk about the good things, the pros, the things that's going to translate well to the NFL, Keith. This is a young man, for people who don't know, he's listed at 6'5", I think 240 pounds as a wide receiver with, I believe in the 100-meter dash, he's a sub 10-3 guy. So he's got 10-1.
Per Google, per the internet, right? Per AI and per the stratosphere, right? It's a 10-1.
10-1.
Yep.
That is that is unheard of at 6'5", 240. Yep. Guy is coming off of a season with 30 catches, 618 yards, and 6 touchdowns. This is a height, weight, speed wide receiver if I've ever seen one, Keith. Talk to the people. What did you notice when you turned on the film with Nyck Harbor?
Yeah, I'm gonna repeat you. Height, weight, speed, right? And you talked about the 10-1. So we're talking about, freakishly athletic and tied into measurables type of situation, right? This is it's rare that we get a prospect like this, and this may be one of those, quote unquote, generational athletic
athletes
situation. Yeah. I think that's the best way to put it. Generational athlete. So, as far as being at height and weight too, with Nyck Harbor. But yeah, I think that also, you listed off the numbers to 30 receptions, 618 yards. That's somewhere around 15, 20 yards per reception, right? So you take that height and weight and speed, that height, weight, speed, and you translate it to the football field, and how South Carolina has utilized them so far is as a big play threat, right? And when you have somebody of that size, so you have to add in, you have to account for wingspan, catch radius, things like that, and just his flat out ability to run past people. So coming off play action and things like that, putting him one-on-one with a corner, safeties, it's probably 90%, 95, maybe 97, 98% of defensive backs in college football he's going to run past. So why not utilize him as that big play threat? Because I think him pushing vertical DP, and I don't know if you notice it too, he's a guy that's going to help draw coverage to open stuff for other people, right? He should make the intermediate portions of your passing game easier, because you have to account for him in a vertical game.
No, 100%. And to back up what you were talking about, he finished 5th in the nation, yards per reception of 20.6 yards per reception. Because again, when you have over 600 yards, but you only caught 30 passes, you have to be down the field quite a bit. And I'm with you, Keith, especially that last point. How he's going to open up everybody else's game, the underneath stuff, the end breakers at 12 yards. He's a guy with his speed. He's got to take that safety over the top with him. It's not a lot of corners there. You want to run with him stride for stride, right? And I think as a matter of fact, when they play Alabama, I think he might have beat Damian Brown that we talked about earlier this summer scouting cycle. I think he beat him on a post pattern. And everything. Like, this dude has legit world-class caliber speed. And at 6'5", with the long legs and the stride, like, he can absolutely take the top off the defense and make you pay for being over aggressive with your coverages. So that elite top end speed, that elite size, and then body type at 6'5", 240, right? He's really good at boxing out smaller defenders as well. Similar to what we talked about with, what was it, Deuce Robinson. Whether you're talking about him running a slant, a shallow cross, or an in cut, if you throw the ball, and not just like 50-50 balls, but just in breaking stuff, and you throw the ball and put it right there on his number, he used that big frame to box out and to post up those smaller defenders, which you want to see with a guy with his body type, size, and wingspan. So just to me, kid, I think off the rip, you're talking about the floor for him. This is a designated deep threat. Like, this is a guy that, back in the day, Keith, in the early 2000s, when the run game was, back when we were a proper country, when the run game was the prevalent thing in the NFL, before we got so, pretty with the quarterbacks and stuff, when we really allowed to be blue collar and be physical and run the football, he's one of those guys, that archetype of, okay, he's out there all the time and he's run blocking until he's not, and then it's one-on-one down the field, hard play action, deep drop by the quarterback, and he just uncorks a 60, 70-yard bomb and say, you know what, big fella, go get it. And then he's got that speed to run underneath it. And he also has the catch radius and wingspan to extend the target window. Like, with that height, weight, and speed, you just don't see guys with this collection of physical tools and traits, which is, guys, why we said he's a generational athlete, because you don't see 6'5", 240 and 10-1, which is probably 4'3", 4'2 in the 40 if he gets a strong start in that 10-yard split. This dude can end up shattering the 40-yard dash.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it's going to be interesting too, because I think when it comes down to his timing, it's going to be that contrast of, the start time, and then, when there's the rolling 20, rolling 30, entire situation. But DP, I think is also, we have to talk about the potential run after catch ability too. When you talk about a guy at this size, can he out physical defensive backs, and also put him in situations where you give him a short pass? And I think of two different things. I think of deep overs, right? Where he can kind of separate in that capacity, just running through zones or running away from defensive backs on a lateral plane. And then also I think of the quick screen game and letting him turn his hips and then get upfield. And can he turn certain situations into a foot race, right? And if you have a guy that runs a 10-1, I mean, you feel like he should win the foot race, right? So
Right.
I think that element to it can provide some versatility, which can make him a very interesting chess piece, right? Offensively, if you're able to get him moving in the right direction.
Man, matter of fact, Keith, to expound on that, I think it was against Texas A&M where he caught a hitch route at maybe 7 to 10. And then I think he took it like 60 yards for a touchdown. Like, he caught the ball, turned upfield, and he just outran every angle of those upfield secondary defense. He split the defense and just took off. And I was like, and that goes to your point. Like, in the short game, if he gets the chance to turn and square his shoulders, and this could turn into a foot race. And there's not many guys in the NFL that if you tell them that they might have 40-yard dash speed, there's not a ton of corners and DBs are just saying, yo, you got 10-1, 100-meter dash speed to catch him from behind. If he stacks a defender, that's more than likely a house call. I think Virginia Tech, he had a big, maybe 60-yard bomb. I think it might have been their first game of the season, if I'm not mistaken, and everything. Yeah, it was. He was 3 of 7, but he had 99 yards, and most of that came on that one deep throw. It was a 64-yard, 64-yard bomb, right? He is good. Like, he's going to take the top off the defense every single game. He may not always get targeted on all of them, but it's a threat you have to respect and acknowledge. You have to do that, because as a defensive coordinator, you can't come out and say, we're going to run cover one. We want to keep a safety in the box, stop the run, and keep Lenore Seller in the box. Okay, cool. Well, if your corners, and that's the, kind of the two-edged sort of, well, what if we tell our corners to press? Well, if you put him the press, and if he misses, well, Lenore sees it. It's strum up the band. Tell the band to get rolling, because we're about to play the fight song. Like, it's a touchdown. The Gamecock mascot is going crazy. Like, the lights are flickering in South Carolina. They're doing all the things because that's a long ball touchdown. So just that constant threat. And Keith, he's one of those guys you can't forget about. Like, your safeties have to, like, not only the defensive coordinator, but as a DC, you're probably, Keith, you coach DBs. You're probably telling them, not just before the game, it's film study, before the game kicks off, but even during the game, before you go back on the field. Hey, if you see Harbour, stay over the top. Don't get aggressive. Don't just because that's when that RPO or that play action kicks, and that's when they want you to do. They want that single high safety, that upfield safety to trigger down to stop the run, and now you got a big explosive play over the top.
Yep, 100%. With DP, we talked about Nyck Harbor being 6'5", 240 pounds, running a 10-1, 100-meter
Mm-hmm.
dash. That's all the positives, right? That's the strengths
Yep.
of his game. Let's talk about the concerns, though. When we watched the film, we evaluated Mr. Nyck Harbor. What are some of the things and areas of improvement that we want to see from him heading to the 2026 college football season? Let's discuss those things coming up next.
Life gets busy, and figuring out what's for dinner every night can quickly become another thing on the to-do list. Home Chef takes the stress out of mealtime by delivering fresh ingredients and easy-to-follow recipes right to your door. Home Chef offers more than 30 meal options every week, including calorie-conscious and GLP-1 friendly meals. So there's something for every schedule and lifestyle, and people really love it. Home Chef is rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. For me, it's just the convenience of not having to constantly figure out what's for dinner. It takes the daily decision off my plate. I mean, literally. And for a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off and free shipping for your first box, plus free dessert for life. Go to homechef.com/LockedOnNFL. That's homechef.com/LockedOnNFL for 50% off your first box and free dessert for life. Homechef.com/LockedOnNFL. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. There are more live events than ever we're seeing right now. Games, concerts, comedy shows, festivals. The hard part usually isn't deciding where I want to go. It's actually getting tickets to the show. Between long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel harder than it should. And that's why so many fans are turning to Game Time. The app is built to make buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive saving opportunities to help get you to the events that you want without the usual hassle. My biggest pet peeve, the thing I hate the most, is when I think I found the perfect deal, that best deal, the steal of a deal, then I get all the way to checkout and that price looks completely different. Guys, I'm taking, and I want you to do the same. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Breaking down the concerns for 6'5", 40-pound explosive athlete at the receiver position, Nyck Harbor for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Keith, what stood out to you negatively on film where you're like, man, this could make some things a little interesting with you in the NFL?
Yeah, DP, Nyck Harbor is such an intriguing prospect, right? Because there's a shot he can hit a home run, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's some other key components to being a good wide receiver, a consistent wide receiver, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you don't necessarily see, or you see lack thereof. I'll say that. And that's there's two areas. I'll stick to one. I'm gonna list both. I'm gonna list two, and I'll stick to one. The route running and the catching. Two of the big components. I'll stick to the
Mm-hmm.
route running portion of it. Him being that size at 6'5", 240, it's not Hmm. It's not out of the trying to find the proper word. It's not out of context for him not to be a great route runner as far as singing the
Yeah.
hips, right? We always talk about this. Guys that are usually taller, their short area quickness is usually not on par with a
Mm-hmm.
guy that's, maybe 5'10", 5'11".
Right.
Plus the route running is usually not as detailed and as crisp, right? So with Nyck Harbor, you see some of the same issues, and with some with him, and you get this with a lot of track stars too, DP. They even track guys that play football. Some of them are so hip tight. That running, that moving laterally or breaking down and moving on a
Mm-hmm.
lateral plane, they struggle in it. And I'm assuming it's because of the movement of always running forward and being explosive in a straight line, that
Yeah.
some of it is those muscles start to, they obviously they get bigger, they get stronger, they get tighter, and then so they make your hips go, I guess, linear, and not laterally, DP. I'm on an
Yeah,
anatomy kick right now. You know
I
what I'm
see
saying?
that.
Like
I
I'm
see
trying
that.
to, we unfolding here at Locked On NFL Draft, DP. But I think it impacts that part, so you can see him struggle a little bit with route running.
No, I agree with you, Keith. And one of the things I notice is like and like you said, everybody like the body route running is definitely subjective due to body types. Like, and
Mhm.
I want our listeners to really hone in on that. I remember during this a couple years ago at the draft, Bleach Report did their live show and they had Micah Parsons on. They always do Micah Parsons on his show night one, but he had CJ Stroud on there with I think it might be Mike Renner or somebody, and they were talking about I can't remember what receiver they were talking about, but CJ Stroud kind of broke that same thing down. He was like, listen, you can't expect guys that are 6'2, 6'3, 220 to run routes like a guy that's 5'9, 170 pounds. Like that's 170 pounds that don't have that much weight and muscle mass to bring down to a stopping point, right? So I want our listeners to understand. I'm paraphrasing, of course, guys. You can go find that clip for yourself. But more so like just to hone in what you were saying, Keith, I'm with you. The route running is definitely something that stood out to me, and it's to the point where like he's not a refined or crisp route runner. So you're talking about running a square in. His square, the apex of his square is rounded. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like he so just to paint that picture for our listeners, he's running a, let's say, 10 the 12-yard square in. So you see him fire off the ball vertically, shoulders are square. Instead of typically you see a guy sink their hips or drop their weight and then cut in and cross the DB, he's taking a rounded path. Like he's going around the corner. Like he's taking a rounded path with his hips because that rotational fluidity really just isn't there for him like that. So I'm not going to ask him to, hey, um, sink and drive like everybody else. We're going to have to call routes that he's comfortable with, physically comfortable with. And I think that's what's going to make most of the sense overall when it comes down to Nyck Harbor is just understand that the route tree is going to be a little bit more limited. The separation, the ability to create that, because I can't remember what game it was. He ran a square in. He ran it against, I think it was zone. So he identified the open the open grass, like as I like to call it when I'm taking my notes. He's a grass finder. So he found the open turf, the open grass against the coverage. But when he got to the top of his route, when he kind of rolled it in, rounded it in,
Mm.
like he didn't separate from the DB, the off coverage DB. So the DB was right there for the pass. Well, you typically see guys, especially if they're playing off coverage, you stretch them, you stretch them vertical, then break in, and you create at least a little bit. He didn't create any. You know what I mean? The DB was right on top of the route, and I was like, yeah, you rounded it. Like you didn't. There was no cut. It was just kind of a plant and round. You see the hips just kind of turn like a Ford F-150 going around a sharp curve. And I was just like, yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a problem. Like the slants, not really as much, but when he has to drive phase, the vertical stem, and then change the direction, yeah, you're going to see some resistance when he has to change that direction.
Yeah, no, I want to, and we talked about the route running. I want to get into the hands part, DB, because I'm interested
Oh
to
yeah.
ask you about that portion because that's a big portion of it too. When it comes to the catching part and the inconsistencies, you think it's focus drops? You think it's him not being a natural hands catcher? Are you ready? Are you ready? That was almost a tongue twister. Or there we go. To put him in the bucket of more of a track guy than natural football guy? Like, where do you stand with that after reviewing the hands and catching portion of it?
Yeah, I because if I remember correctly, I think in high school he was a defensive end.
Mhm.
If I remember correctly, 'cause I remember like he did an interview before last season where the interviewer asked him, hey, fans want to know, why don't you just switch to play DN and be the next number? I think it was like number, they called him next number, or next number 6, Jadeveon Clowney. He's like, well, we already got a number 6, Dylan Stewart. I'm trying to train to be the best receiver I could possibly be, which is admirable, and I understand it, but I definitely think he's not a natural hands catcher because even at his size, Keith, I walked away underwhelmed in contested catch situations. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not dominant in that regard. Like, you see, like I talked about earlier, he can post up and box out smaller defenders, but with the balls in the air, even when he's going up with the intent of letting it come down to him. When you're 6'5", 240, and you have that generational athleticism he had, I want to see you go up, and I mean full extension, and catch it with the catch radius. Give them no chance to make a play on the ball. If you're still, even if you go up and you're waiting on the ball, like it's still a chance, and you're waiting for it to drop into your hands or into your shoulder pads or your pads. It's still an opportunity for the DB to punch up and knock the ball out. The DB for you to come down, the DB to punch it through. Like that peanut punch has been taught to almost every DB in football. Everybody's seen it, man. From shout out to Charles Tillman. So yeah, like I don't think he's a natural hands catcher. That was something I jotted down. His catch mechanics are inconsistent.
Yeah, no, and going back to DP, I went to 247, and this is a per 247 update, is that
Mm-hmm.
he actually, well, I think he's ranked the number 15th player in the entire country in his draft class at the edge rusher position. And DP, I appreciate the info, and now I'm kind of slightly disappointed because I think I would rather see him at defensive end, right? Like I want to see some edge rusher reps. Honestly, like you talk about a freak athlete, right? And then I think
Yeah,
about that combination of Nyck Harbor and then who's
Dylan
the
Stewart.
yeah, Dylan Stewart, right? Like that could have been a very dangerous combination. When you talk
Man,
about this young man is 240 running a 10-1. I mean, you put 10, 15 more pounds on him and he's 255 running a 10-3, right? Like that could be
right.
very interesting too. So DP, let's go ahead and do this, man. Let's go ahead and drop our draft grades and then add some more context to Mr. Nyck Harbor, things that we want to see from him this upcoming year. Where should he play? What role should he play in
Mhm.
college and then translating to the NFL? Let's discuss all those things coming up next.
The Locked On NFL Draft Podcast brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel's giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick on who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Sometimes it's a hitter who's been on a hot streak, a favorable pitching matchup, or even that ballpark that tends to give up home runs. Those are the first things that I always look for before making my daily dingers picks. So are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at fanduel.com. That's fanduel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you, our everydayers. Keith, what grade do you have? Explain the grade. Let's talk comps and everything about Nyck Harbor, 6'5", 240 pound, running a 10-1 in the 100-meter dash.
Oh, this was so difficult, DP, because when you factor in the height, weight, and speed, right, it makes you want to say, give me that guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think if this was I was about to say 2K, not 2K. If this was NCAA or if it was Madden, right? And I can kind of control his progressions through life and like I could kind of user, what I'm saying,
Yeah.
improve some of these attributes.
Develop them.
DP. Yeah, I would draft him in the first round. But unfortunately, I can't do that, DP. You know what I'm saying? Like listen, this is not virtual reality. This is reality. So
Yes, sir.
the draft grade I'm gonna give him, DP, I'm gonna give him a late second to early third round grade. Just because listen, in the past, we've seen this. Not we haven't seen exactly this archetype, but we've seen a lot of fast wide receivers come through the
Mm-hmm.
NFL. We've seen a lot of fast wide receivers not make it. The two biggest concerns with him are some of my two biggest traits that I care about when it comes to a wide receiver, and that's catching the football consistently, and that's creating some type of separation in route running. So, I that's the best way I could balance it out, right? The 6'5", 240. I have to discuss the other side of it too with the hands catching and the route running.
No, I'm with you. I got him a late second as well, Keith. I think the elite physical ability is there, but it's definitely a situation where the OC has to be bought in. The OC has to be creative in a sense of and just understanding what you truly have. I mean, we say this all the time. I always say this, especially this part. I always say draft for the plan. Whoever you're taking in the draft, NFL team, coach, please have a plan of what you're going to do with the player. Like it don't matter how much physical tools they have. If you don't know how you're going to use them, it's useless. Like, you know what I mean? You don't want to I don't like teams developing that on the fly. Like, no, you watch his film, you see what he's good at. Now picture that in your offense and how would you deploy him? So the OC is definitely going to be a big thing for him. And of course, the quarterback. You don't want him with an inaccurate QB, but you also don't want him with a passive QB because then you nullify and neuter his best trait, which is the explosiveness.
Yeah.
If he goes to Buffalo and you got him, DJ Moore, whether or not Keon Coleman's still there, Khalil Shakir, all of the names they have there, he would fill in a role. He'll be a role specific player early in his career, but you got him with the right quarterback and Josh Allen, who I just saw him drop a dime to DJ Moore over in between three defenders in camp. I was like, yeah, this okay, it's Josh. It's different. It's just Josh Allen. Like if it's Josh, if it's Mahomes, if it's Herbert, right? If they were not to re-sign QJ or Ladd and they wanted, okay, like those quarterbacks, yes, they want to push the ball down the field. They want to take the top off. You don't put them with the Brock Purdy and some of these other quarterbacks who are more timing and accuracy based because their skill sets aren't going to match. They're not going to mesh well, right? So it's crazy, Keith, because the comp and that goes into my comp. My comp for him is DK Metcalf. Like, and I think about DK coming out of Ole Miss, and I remember. Now, guys, I'm not gonna say this. I remember this was a rumor coming out when him and AJ Brown came out in the draft. They was like, yeah. Ole Miss only ran like 37 plays a game, and it was the same 37 plays. Like they didn't have a really wide playbook, so everybody was critiquing their route running. And I was like, well, okay, because I remember DK ran like he slipped, but people were like going crazy on Twitter about his 3-cone. And I'm like, well, I'm not asking him to run option routes like Julian Edelman. I don't care about his 3-cone. Right. You know what I mean? The same way I'm not telling Julian Edelman, hey, go out there and run that 9 route 40 times a game. I know that's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? It's just that's not how he wins. But I remember the pairing of DK Metcalf or Russell Wilson in Seattle was near perfect. Russell Wilson, one of the best deep ball throwers in the league, and to me, one of the best in history, Keith. So, like, I think that size, strength, and that's what I would love for Nick to if I were to talk to him. Hey, watch some DK because DK didn't have the greatest release package, the greatest or craziest short area quickness. DK leaned into that height, weight, and speed profile, and he used that to his advantage. If he foot fired. Listen, you may not care about his feet, but when those hands go flying, he's gonna get rid of you. Like if you try to be super physical and press him, he knew how to use his hands to get open and get free in breaking routes and at the line of scrimmage. So that's the comp I have for him is DK Metcalf. DK was 6'4", 230, 235. He ran a 4.33 in the 40. Like explosive athlete, big, strong, powerful young man, coming out of Ole Miss, but he was unrefined at the same time.
Yep. No, so DP, I think we land on two different sides of this, but I think for the listeners, it's actually going to play out good, right? Because they get to get both kind of lenses. Because I actually like the DK Metcalf mentioned from an optimism standpoint. Because I think DK Metcalf even went, if I'm not mistaken, the back end of the second round. I think it's like pick 60 or something like that, I believe.
Yep.
The guy I thought about, which similar measurables, he wasn't as fast, but similar measurables, I thought about Chase Claypool.
Okay, that's a good one.
You kind of get where I'm going with this, right? Like you leaned potential, right?
That's gonna open up a different conversation in just a second, but yeah.
But I like it because it provides context, right? Like, when we do these comps, I like when we kind of do this because you can get either this or you can get either that, right?
Yeah.
And Chase Claypool was the same exact way. He was this freak athlete, explosive, 6'4", 220, 230 pounds. But what was his biggest concerns? Route running and natural hands catching, right?
So
that was his two things. But I I mean, and for all these prospects, right, that we grade and we watch and stuff like that, you would wish the more optimistic point of it that if he's DK Metcalf, I think that could be really fun. And that's somebody that I
Mm-hmm.
did not think of. I want to ask this real quick before we close out, because we didn't talk about it. We got a couple minutes. Position change. Is he a guy that should have to change positions, or would you lean towards him changing a position?
That's crazy, Key. I was going to ask you the same exact
Oh,
question. I was going to ask you the same exact question. And I was going to ask it anyway because we talked about with Deuce Robinson. But then when you invoked Chase Claypool, I was like, that was a part of the conversation. Shout out to our boy Eric Crocker, because when Chase Claypool came out, Croc evaluated him, and if I remember correctly, I don't want to send people at Croc, and for no reason, but I'm pretty sure Croc said he viewed him more as a tight end, like as a move tight end in the NFL. He didn't view him as because of the separation questions. And he was like, but if you have him as a move tight end, you got yourself a superb athlete with size and strength. And that fits perfect. I was going to ask the same thing about with Nick. And I think because you talked about the position changer, well, if he had played DN, like, man, I would love to see him develop at that spot. I'm not going to lie. I would love him at tight end. I would absolutely love him at tight end because you have to, of course, that transition from wide receiver to tight end, the biggest hurdle is run blocking, right?
So I'm gonna jump in real quick.
Yeah.
This might be where it work out. Is
that true?
He's a former defensive end. So like the physicality part, right, from high school, it might actually
like a bigger Harold Fanning, where it's like that aggressive.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, 100% though. Like he might, and I'm with you, right? Because most wide receivers, you like kicking them inside. They usually play wide receiver for a reason, right? It's the same thing with corners, right? You don't want to move a corner to your strong side safety or your linebacker, right? You're probably in trouble, right? But the fact that he has a defensive mindset from playing in high school, I think maybe he could do it, right? Because I'm right there with you with the hesitation on it. But I'm like, if there's a string to hold on to when you're talking about that transition, especially, I think you're about to flush out the run blocking conversation part of that.
No, that's a very good call out, Keith. Because typically, guys who play on the D line, they have a string or a DNA mentality of aggression that most offensive players don't have unless you're a running back. You know what I mean? So that might pan out for him because of the fact that he played DN early in his career in high school, and you just unlock that. Hey, it's the same thing. You being back in the trenches, battling in the trenches, go hit somebody, seal that block, seal that edge, get to that linebacker, and we're good. And you think about, again, like, no, it's not to the extent of what it was in terms of offensive play calling in the 2000s where it was run dominant, but NFL teams and offenses we see it with the Rams, and we see a copycat league. The Rams going in 13, 12, 13, 14 personnel and saying, you know what? You want to live in nickel? That's fine. You want to be an undersized defensive front? Cool. Let's run the ball and have all these tight ends on the field, and let's beat you into submission to where then when we get you with the play action, you already worn down because you're tired of tackling. You're tired of shedding in the run game. Your pass rush don't have the same juice it had because they've been defending the whole game. So you talking about him going into an offense that will lean on the run game. I'm not gonna lie, I got the perfect offense for him. The Baltimore Ravens. You lose Isaiah Likely, you lose Charlie Kolar, you got Mark Andrews.
Isaiah developed nicely coming out of what he was at. Was it Coastal Carolina, and then kind of, because remember at first he was like a first round lock, and then he was saying he's gonna run a 4.3, and I think he wound up running like a 4.5 or 4.6, but he's turning into a solid career. And I mean, he's a piece that Harbour went got. I want to go back to your scheme standpoint because DP, I can see it in my mind, right? I can see this happening, and so Nyck Harbor's playing tight end for okay, let's use your example. The Baltimore Ravens, right? He's playing tight end for the Baltimore Ravens. So they come out in 12, 13 personnel, right? So then the defense has to run on 3 linebackers, right? They have to run on 3 linebackers. And then they're like, you know what? We're going to play man, right? And then boom, you shift as an offense, right? You shift and you put Nyck Harbor on the outside. And now he's lined up against a linebacker on the outside. And then now what I see, the next thing I see, DP, a defensive coordinator sprinting up the sideline or a head coach sprinting up the sideline to call a timeout. That's what I see. Right? To be like, you know what? I don't want that to happen.
I do not need that problem.
Yep. So I mean, it could be a very interesting thought and could be a weapon for
No, 100%. We'll see how the season goes. I would look if he develops at wide receiver. Like you're talking about. I'm not gonna. I did this yesterday. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
you
usher
did.
the name.
I
Yeah,
know where you're
I'm not
going,
gonna usher
and
the
just
name. Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie
I'm
to you.
not.
Not
I'm not gonna usher the name again. But you guys know what I'm saying. If he develops at the receiver spot with that size, that strength, that the weight and the speed and athleticism, like you have a legit problem at the X receiver spot where you're like, man, and then you pair with a good slot / Z. Oh yeah, you know me. I'm like build your wide receiver core like a basketball team. I got my high flying four, my high flying power four. I'm good. That back shoulder fade, the goal ball, all that stuff's gonna be available to us, and we're gonna rock.
Yep, I agree with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.